You know, we won World War I, and we won World War II, not with the Department of Defense, but with a War Department.
We're focusing our military on its core mission, crushing America's adversaries.
We're in the business of war fighting.
Good morning, Owasso. This is Chad with Owasso Live, and this is the Morning Loop. Well, the big news in the media now for a while has been Trump renaming the Department of Defense the Department of War, and how the left is freaking out about it and just talking about how Trump keeps militarizing everything, deploying the National Guard to make cities safer, and, drone striking cartel boats off the coast. And just everything he's doing, it seems just making America look mightier and stronger and more secure. I mean, people are less likely to try to enter the borders and stuff illegally if Trump is drone striking cartels and deploying National Guard units to free up police to do things, to actually police and solve crimes. And that's what's going on, and the Democrats are not about that. I swear, it seems like the Democrats are all about keeping America less safe and keeping Americans less safe. They're more concerned about the rights of illegal immigrants and foreigners and criminals than they are American citizens, as that's always seemed to be the case. I just kind of, on this whole week of, just trying to keep America safe or making America safe again, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. And since I'm in the Guard, it kind of hits close to home when you're hearing Guard units being deployed to be sent to go police areas. And if there was anything that the Guard was intended to be used for, it is to defend cities and states, because it's the National Guard. The National Guard, it's in the name. We guard the nation. Active duty goes and fights battles. National Guard is supposed to defend home territory. Now, granted, we can be used for deployments like that in times of war, but it seems like we've just been only being used for deployments overseas anymore. But Trump's trying to change that. He's trying to change the culture of the military and make it stronger, which I think is a great thing. So let's get into all this, and we'll start off with this video over here. Let me transition to my smaller screen over here. There we go. And we'll talk about, where is that? The Tom Home, no, we'll start with the Trump. Where is it, if I can find it? There we go. Yeah, this guy, this historian talking about the Department of Defense. So let's check this out.
We're going Department of War, and I'd like to ask our Secretary of War to say a few words.
This name change is not just about renaming, it's about restoring the warrior ethos.
President Trump and Secretary of Defense Hegseth have both said they're committed to restoring American military tradition by restoring certain names. But what military tradition are they reviving or restoring here? In 1947, President Truman and Congress wanted to save us money. And they thought it would be more efficient if the military were unified, if the Army and the Navy, which included the Marine Corps, would be unified. When the idea of putting these together arose, the Navy didn't want to do it. They were absolutely against the idea. They couldn't call this unified Army and Navy the War Department, because that would mean the Army had won. And they obviously couldn't call it the Navy Department because, well, how can you have an Army and a Navy Department? So they chose a neutral term, defense, the Defense Department.
We're going to set the tone for this country. America first, peace through strength, brought to you by the War Department. We're back.
So now that Secretary Hegseth will become the Secretary of War, Does that mean that the Navy and the Marine Corps are going to get kicked out of the Pentagon? The American military tradition is not to describe the Navy or the Marine Corps as part of the Department of War.
Really, it has to do with winning. We should have won every war. We could have won every war, but we really chose to be very politically correct or wokey.
The history that they're asserting is completely made up. They might believe that the term Defense Department is some kind of DEI term. We're talking about 1947, a time when the United States understood it needed a strong defense. Change the name if you want to. But the idea that the name Defense Department has any political or ideology associated with it is baloney.
We're going to...
That was the stupidest argument I've ever heard in my life, and this guy's a historian, supposedly, on CNN. The name didn't get changed. It was the Department of War until 1947, when Truman changed the name, as he just said right there, which means it was the Department of War from the inception of the country. George Washington called it the Department of War. And the Navy conducts naval warfare. So the fact that the Navy's like, oh, we don't like that name because it means the Army's won. That doesn't make any sense. The Navy conducts warfare. Naval warfare. The Office of Naval Warfare. I'm pretty sure there's a department for that. So that doesn't make any sense at all. War is what all service members are supposed to be doing. That's what you train for. You train for if your country goes to war. That doesn't exclude the Navy and the Marines. That was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. This man gets to go on CNN and talk for a living. And you just sit there and scratch your head going, what? It excludes the Navy because the Navy didn't like the name? And even if that's true that whoever the Navy people were at the time didn't like the name, that's retarded. That is so stupid. As if the Navy doesn't conduct warfare. As if the Marines don't go to war and conduct warfare. That is so stupid. The word army, the word war doesn't only mean army. As if the Army's the only people that go to war. That's so stupid. And two, even if that was the case, Pete Hegseth was in the Army National Guard. So he's just doing his thing. He's the person in charge of it. Let him do whatever he wants. You're not the boss. Oh, these liberals, man. These left-wing liberal commentators that CNN brings on. Just everything that they do is wrong. And two, for those of you that are like New World Order types, that think about the New World Order types, people, that actually makes sense that the Department of Defense would have changed to the Department of Defense during the time. We're not here to conduct war anymore. We're here to defend the world. We're here to defend the world order. It's like, no. So America's interest is not the world's interest, and that should be the same for every other nation. Other nations should look out for their best interests, not the global economies. That's the problem with the world right now, is that other nations are trying to be global citizens. Hell, the rest of the globe isn't as civilized as the Western nation, as we have seen, unfortunately, from all the open door mass immigration that we see going on right now. Not all the world has caught up to the Western civilized world at this point. And they're just importing these people and making these nations and countries worse, unfortunately. So we'll continue on, kind of get off the whole Department of War thing. But we're going to get into the whole drone strike operations. Like I said, Trump just militarizing everything, which this is crazy. I saw this when it first happened, and I just was like, holy crap. That's insane. So let's check out this footage of this drone strike. It appears to show an airstrike hitting a suspected drug traffickers. Woof. Boom. Man alive.
Well, the president made the announcement and said it was a lethal strike. I think the Pentagon will have more details and other things to offer you here in the next few hours, hopefully.
Say what kind of vessel it was? Yeah, vessel.
The drug vessel was carrying drugs.
Size?
I'll refer you to the Pentagon. They'll give you more details on that when in the next. I anticipate shortly, probably while we're in the air.
How many deaths with the lethal force?
Again, look, I'm trying to be evasive.
This
I'll
is
let the
right as it just happened, so I'm not surprised he doesn't know any of this stuff. But it says here, we'll just read this. President Trump said that the U.S. forces have targeted and destroyed drug trafficking speedboat in the southern Caribbean, killing 11 on board. He said that the shipment was connected to a gang he alleged was led by the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. Well, that's great. Let's just see that one more time, because that is so crazy. Boom. Man alive.
Well,
That's crazy. Then you have the rest of the world weighing in on what it thinks of it. Here's from the BBC. The U.S. strike on Venezuelan drug boat. What do we know? And was it legal? Uh-oh. No. What's going on here? Well, I can't make it work. Why is this BBC one not wanting to work for me? Let's try refreshing it, see if that works. There we go. Okay. A strike carried out by U.S. forces on a boat in the Caribbean, which the White House says killed 11 drug traffickers, may have violated international human rights and maritime law, legal experts have told BBC Verify. President Donald Trump announced on Tuesday that U.S. forces destroyed a vessel in which he said had departed from Venezuela. He said that the boat was operating by Trinidad Araga cartel and was carrying drugs bound for the U.S. The U.S. defense officials have so far declined to offer details on the strike, footage of which Trump shared on Truth Social, including what legal authority they relied upon to justify it. The BBC reached out to a range of experts, international and maritime law, with several saying that the U.S. may have acted illegally in attacking the vessel. The U.S. is not a signatory of the United Nations Conventions of Law of the Sea, but the U.S. military legal advisors have previously said that the U.S. should act in a manner consistent with its provisions. So we're not subject to the UN's maritime law. So, no, didn't do anything illegal. And two, why are they defending drug dealers and cartel members? I mean, if we had done this to a bunch of pirates off the shores of Somalia or wherever else, would they be saying the same things? Like, oh, well, they violated rights. You're violating rights of people who are perpetrating crimes against other people. They're doing something illegal. Trafficking drugs to some place where drugs are illegal is illegal. Again, this is how you know that the UN is just freaking what they call it DEI or affirmative action. It's affirmative action for evil countries. That's what the UN is. The UN is affirmative action for evil countries, where countries that don't have the same types of that have terrible human rights violations get to come in and tell the United States and other Western nations how bad they're being. You mean a country that doesn't grant rights to women, that has some countries that still have open slavery and stuff like that, get to come into the UN and then tell the United States and other Western nations, you guys are the real bad guys? It's like, no. That's what people are worried about with the whole New World Economic Order or whatever. That's why people are terrified of this, is because nations that have worse traffic records with human rights and laws and everything else, and that are even commit genocides on a regular basis and murders of their own citizenry, are telling us how bad we are, and they get to have a say in what we can and can't do sending UN troops places. This is why it's so stupid to have the UN. The UN is the stupidest and most worthless organization on the planet. It's ridiculous. All right, so let's get back to this. The U.S. is not signing out. Under the convention, the countries agreed not to interfere with vessels operating in international waters. There is a limited exceptions to which allow a state to seize a ship, such as hot pursuit, whereas a vessel is chased from a country's waters into the high seas. Force can be used to stop a boat generally, but should be non-lethal measures. Professor Luke Moffat of Queen's University Belfast said. But he added that the use of aggression tactics must be reasonable and necessary in self-defense, where this is immediate threat of serious injury or loss of life to enforcement officials, noting that the U.S. moves were likely unlawful under the law of the sea. The law of the sea. There is no law of the sea. Law of the sea. As if pirates and people who are human traffickers and smugglers follow the laws of the sea. That's the whole point of like the laws of the sea, is like to get out somewhere where you can do things whatever you want. Like, oh, it's illegal to do drugs or whatever inside, U.S. waters or whatever waters. I'm going to go out to waters so far away so I can do all these illegal things that I want to do. That was the whole purpose of being in boats so far away. It's like no one can stop you from doing whatever activities that you want to do. You're not bound by the laws of the land anymore, or the laws of the governments of people's lands and territories. Are the strikes on the alleged cartel members legal? Again, strikes on cartel members. They're cartel members. They're, allegedly, they're supposedly, at least at the worst, they're drug smugglers. At the best, they're only just drug smugglers. At the worst, they're criminals, robbers, thieves, and possible potential murderers, even human traffickers. These are evil people. And we're like, is this legal? Are what they're doing, is that legal? You're playing semantics here. Now, granted, one of us used extreme force on the other to stop a crime, but they're committing a crime. So ridiculous that people go to this extreme lengths to defend criminality. It's sickening. The experts have also questioned whether the killing of the alleged members of the Trinidad and Tobago cartel could contravene international law on the use of force. Under Article 2 of the UN Charter, excuse me, countries can resort to force when under attack and deploying their military in self-defense. Trump has previously accused Trinidad and Tobago cartel of conducting irregular warfare against the United States, and the State Department has designed a group as a foreign terrorist designated the group as a foreign terrorist organization, which actually does grant us to do stuff like this. If they're a terrorist group, you're allowed to monitor and, perform military actions on them. So that's probably why Trump did this. Probably did declare them a terrorist organization. So that way he could target them with military force, which is a good thing. If cartel members are afraid that the military is going to drone strike them, they're less likely to be doing smuggling and any other type of operations in the United States. That's going to scare the crap out of them. If the terrifying threat of a drone strike just coming to just take you out is a very, very terrifying notion. Every time that they come out in the open, they're going to be like terrified that, is this the one? Is this the one that's going to get us? Professor Michael Becker of the Trinity College in Dublin told the BBC Verify that the U.S. action stretches the meanings of the term beyond its breaking point. The fact that the U.S. officials described the individuals killed by the U.S. strike as narco-terrorists does not transform them into lawful military targets, he said. The U.S. is not engaged in armed conflict with Venezuela or the Trinidad and Tobago criminal organizations. Actually, we are. When Trinidad and Tobago gangs are taking over, what was that? Those apartment complexes inside Colorado and other places, and they're bringing in drugs and smuggling people into the United States, it actually does give us the right to do that. The balls on other nations that don't have the problems with this gang, at least, allegedly, maybe Trinidad and Tobago was over in these places in the in Europe. I highly doubt nearly as much as they are in the United States. But how dare they get to comment on what we get to do? That is the totality of a liberal elitist of, oh, how dare they do these things to these poor gang members? I can't believe that they would do that. That is elitism. Oh, yeah, we're boots on the ground here. People here that are having these problems in their face, seeing the harsh realities of these Trinidad Raga gang members, being told by some smug liberal tea-sipping Brit somewhere that, oh, you should just let them do that. Yeah, that way we can end up like your country where your police are hamstring and let grooming gangs and other refugees and other people just do horrible things to your citizenry. But we're not too far off with what's going on. But at least with that last attack, the guy was at least an American citizen attacking a refugee. But at the same time, just like crazy stuff is going on. This is why this whole topic of this week is like make America safe again. And this is how Trump is doing it. All right. Not only does the strike appear to have violated the prohibition on the use of force, it also runs afoul of the right of life under international human rights law. Okay, people who are breaking every other law don't get human rights. When you break the law, you get sent to jail. They're breaking you're having your human rights violated when they send you to jail because you violated someone else's human rights or are breaking some law. You don't get human rights when you break the law. Professor Moffat said that the use of force in this could amount to an extrajudicial arbitrary killing and the fundamental violation of human rights. The labeling everyone as a terrorist does not make them a lawful target and enables a state to sidestep international law, he said. Notre Dame law professor Mary Ellen O'Connell told BBC Verify that the strike violated fundamental principles of international law. Well, guess what? We're not worried about international law in the United States right now when people are smuggling people and drugs into our country. That's not international law at that point. That's them coming to ours. If they have the intention of coming straight to our country, I mean, that's the whole point of like what happened during 9/11 is like, do you just post 9/11 is like, are we just going to allow planes to fly into buildings? Well, we don't know if they're actually going to do it until they do it. It's like, so we're just going to, if someone hijacks a plane or a boat or whatever, we're just going to wait till they actually cross the border or land on the shores before we can do anything about it? Questions that need answers that the left will refuse to answer in situations like this. Sometimes armed groups wage war against governments dealing with drugs to pay for their participation in conflict. There is no evidence that the gang President Trump targeted is such a group. It's Trinidad Aragua. They're on U.S. soil, taking over apartment buildings and complexes. This is why left-wing professors are not the best sources because they're already anti-Trump, guaranteed that this lady is, and they're getting interviewed. Like, so again, this is what we talk about. Like from what you're told in college all the time. It's amazing that college professors don't follow their own rules. It's like college professors will tell you regularly. At least when I was there, I don't know how it is now, but like you need to cite your sources, and you need to have several different sources. These people and these people who are working for these media companies are basically going to find biased sources that already don't like Trump and already have a bad opinion about him. And then they're like, did this violate law? And so these people who are biased against Trump, oh yeah, he violated the law. They're just going to they're starting at the conclusion, Trump bad. So we're going to talk about what he's doing wrong. And then we're just going to form our conclusion. So that Trump's bad. Let's just form our conclusion to make it to where Trump's bad. So, again, left-wing professors and journalists don't follow the same standards and practices that I went to school. You have to have all these sources. You have to cite them. And, don't put your bias into it. These people are putting their bias into it. But the U.S. officials are quick to defend the strike. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham wrote on X, the strike was ultimate and most welcome sign that we have a new sheriff in town. His fellow Republican senators Bernie Marino from Ohio wrote, "Sinking this boat saved American lives. To the narco traffickers and the narco dictators, you'll eventually get the same treatment." A White House official told BBC Verify that Trump has authorized strikes on the boat, which said that it was crewed by Tren de Aragua members. After it left Venezuela, excuse me, the official added that the president was committed to using all means to prevent drugs from reaching the U.S. The Pentagon has declined to share the legal advice it obtained before carrying out the strike. The U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, now the War Secretary of War, told Fox News, "We've got an incredible asset that they're gathering in the region. Those 11 drug traffickers are no longer with us, sending a very clear signal that this is an activity the United States is not going to tolerate in our hemisphere." Can Trump launch attacks without congressional approval? Yes, he can. He can do drone strikes. I remember talking about this earlier in a show, or at least like reading about it. Trump, if it's a terrorist organization, Trump can approve drone strikes. It's moving in, it's declaring of war and deploying troops that he needs approval from Congress. The question has also been raised whether the White House complied with U.S. law authorizing the strikes. The U.S. Constitution says that only Congress has the power to declare war. He didn't declare war. He declared Tren de Aragua a terrorist organization, so he can drone strike them. If you're going to make this argument, Obama bombed kids in Yemen. So if you're going to come after Trump for this, you're going to have to indict your Lord and Savior Barack Obama, liberals. You're going to have to. If you play these games, you're going to have all your little lovey-dovey Democratic presidents prior to Donald Trump be in trouble for crap like this. I mean, remember, we didn't declare war on Somalia. And Bill Clinton sent the Marines and the Rangers and Delta Force to Somalia. Hello. People, that you're not realizing what you're doing, what types of things you're opening yourself up for. However, Article 2 lays out which the president powers say that the president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army, and some constitutional experts have suggested that this grants the president the power to authorize strikes against military targets. Trump administration sources have previously cited provisions defending U.S. strikes on Iran. Yes, Obama has done drone strikes. I'm sure that Biden had drone strikes during his administration. Again, go back all the way to Black Hawk Down. Bill Clinton sent in the military to humanity efforts for Somalia during when Mohammed Farid Aidid or whatever was, killing all the people and starving people to death. It is unclear whether the provisions extend to the full use of force against non-state actors such as drug cartels. Trump says that 11 were killed. Yeah, we got all that. Ruben Cholakov, an expert in U.S. constitutional law at King's College in London, told the BBC Verify that since 9/11, U.S. presidents have relied on 2001 authorization of use of force when carrying out strikes against groups responsible for attacks. The scope has been expanded consistently in subsequent administrations. He added, it is not immediately obvious that the drug cartels such as Tren de Aragua would be within the president's authorization of military force powers, but again, might be what narco-terrorists is hinting at. Questions also remain on whether Trump complied with the the war power resolution, which demands the president in every possible way and instance shall consult with Congress before introducing U.S. Armed forces into hostiles. It says consult. It doesn't say that he needs their permission. It says to consult. And if he's got some of the officials there, he probably did consult. If he has his cabinet and board members and other members of Congress, I mean, clearly some of the Republican members of Congress and the Senate are okay with it. So he did consult. It doesn't mean that everybody has to agree. How did the U.S. conduct the strike? It was unclear. We don't even have to read all the rest of this, but you get it. Like the rest of the world, finger wagging, telling you, how dare you do bad things? Well, it's affecting our population. It's affecting our citizenry. And they're like, you should just let them do it. It's like, no, that age is over. Donald Trump's, trying to play nice to the left and is gone after his first term. After everything that they did to him, he doesn't care at this point. He is just going. Trump is becoming the monster that the left accused him of for his first term. Is basically what's happening now. Which it's not even that bad. What did the National Guard do? The National Guard did not really do anything in Washington, D.C. They just showed up. It was the easiest deployment ever. Didn't hear any incidents. I mean, I didn't hear of any incidents where any guardsman had to get into fights or was hurt or injured or anything like that, or did anything to the citizenry. They're just walking around. National Guard is people I'm National Guard. They're average people. They're walking around. They're working amongst you right now. You're probably working with somebody that is in the National Guard at your job. There's probably somebody where at your work, or you know somebody or is related to somebody that's in the National Guard. So, insane. But, speaking of which, now we're getting to the whole point of what's going on where our troops are being deployed and Trump's threatening crackdowns on big blue liberal cities that are having huge crime issues. Crime is a huge problem in blue cities. And that's the thing the left keeps pointing out. It's these red states have higher crime than our blue states do. He's like, yeah, but they're in blue cities. The high crime rates are in blue Democrat-run cities every single time. That's what they always love to point out. Is red states have higher crime rates than blue states. Yeah, in blue cities. I can't hammer that home enough. It's blue cities. It's always left-wing, light-on-crime blue cities because they don't give a crap about the police. They don't give a crap about policing. Democrats claim they do, but they really don't. So we're going to bring up this news feed right here from the BBC again to get kind of an unbiased take, which the BBC is incredibly left-wing. They're state-funded, and if you know anything about UK politics, people are trying to get the UK defunded as a British network because of how biased and heavy left-leaning they are, because they clearly have a left-wing bias in their politics, and it really is ticking off anybody on the more conservative parties in the UK, which, again, don't get anything too torn up here. A right-wing party in the UK is not even remotely close to what we consider right-wing here in the United States. As a conservative and a Republican, you would blush at the things that they find to be acceptable, whereas a Republican or conservative here in the United States would be like, oh my God, you're a communist.
The city of Chicago is gearing up for an expected deployment of National Guard troops ordered by Donald Trump over what he calls out-of-control crime. The US president said this week the military would be going in following similar moves in Los Angeles and Washington. But Chicago's Democrat leadership is vowing to resist, challenging his authority to deploy forces and saying the move is a front for an immigration crackdown. Tom Bateman reports.
On the south side of Chicago, few seem braced for President Trump's troops. But many here will tell you about a different battle, one for the souls of the young.
How many of y'all been to the joint or been to the county? Raise your hand. Keep your hand raised if you've been shot. I wasn't born like
Rob White works to stop the allure of gangs, part of a citywide plan that's helped drive a big drop in violent crime over the last 2 years. With fellow worker Ali, we passed the site of a drive-by attack that wounded 7 at the weekend.
When the president says he's going to send the troops here, what do you say?
Troops are already here. We the troops. We the troops. What you need?
That's a great way to put that, bro.
Increase what's already being done. Your outcome is already happening. Why change the cook in the kitchen if the meal is good?
The Democrat-run city.
The problem is there's not enough cooks in the kitchen. That's the issue. There's not enough cooks in the kitchen. And those guys can only help kids that want to get out of that lifestyle. That's what they're leaving out in that little segment right there. It's they're already there. I said, those guys are doing great work. I'm sure those guys are doing great work. But there's not enough of them. And two, everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about. When you were in school and those guys came in like the anti-drug guys, those guys are the anti-gang guys, whereas the anti-drug guys come in, hey, yeah, it's cool not to do drugs. Like I said, you literally, even as a kid, just went, eye roll. You're like, this is stupid. That is the mentality of what most teenagers would think of those guys. So that's the issue. It's like they don't need more youthful, I'll call them the youth pastor guys. They're like, let's get you guys off the streets. And, we need to get you guys some purpose, which, they do need purpose. But, like, when it's coming to how bad and how, armed and, like, dangerous these gangs are in Chicago and these other places, you need military force at this point. And and the Democrats won't deploy their National Guard units because they don't want to be seen as deploying the troops or whatever. So we'll keep watching this.
He points to cuts in crime prevention funding by the Trump administration. Chicago is now a flashpoint, channeling America's divisions. And the lines become stark.
And, of course, they blame Donald Trump. Said Donald Trump cut our budget. Is like, there's no way Donald Trump cut your budget to your police and police funding. There's no way. They cut your overall budget, but Chicago cut the budget and funding to the police. I mean, Chicago has been bad for years, hundreds of years now. One of the most corrupt cities in the nation, probably if not the most. And you said you only just lost your funding when Trump got in office. Why weren't your crime rates going down? Why do you still have the same problems that you had all these years ago? Nothing has changed. Like, they keep saying these things. Everything gets turned back to Donald Trump, but that's how the left-wing media operates.
When
Trump
we cross into the next neighborhood, here Mr. Trump's threat to militarize a third U.S. city resonates.
Yeah, tell us. You can't wait till they get here.
That's right.
Why is that?
Why not? Because you got to get rid of the criminals. This city's crazy. There's too much crime. It's common sense. I'm scared to go out. If you do, you got to carry a gun.
And then,
yeah, regular people that work jobs, that work 9-to-5 jobs, work their butts off for a living, don't like crime because it affects them. They can't get their customers. Their buildings get robbed. Their stores get robbed. The average American is who gets hurt by crime. It's not the wealthy liberal elitist sipping his tea at the university. And then but that person comes here and be like, oh, they don't need it. We talked to some of the locals here. They're fine. They say they've got it. The youth basketball league is going to take care of all of this. So stupid. It's so stupid.
And there are the worries that Mr. Trump's immigration raids loom. In one Latino neighborhood, workers demand protections.
And what are people feeling in these communities? What's the mood?
Fear. A lot of them don't want to go out and come out anymore because of it, because they fear of getting caught.
They fear getting caught, which means that they are illegal immigrants. So they've broken the law, and they live in fear of coming out now because they broke all the American laws to come into this country. They're working illegally and taking jobs and money from average American citizens that are not exactly living in the most high-up strung neighborhoods. And you know who's being affected by this? Black communities, black and Hispanic communities that are Americans, having their wages undercut by illegal immigrants that'll do it for cheaper. They should be afraid. This is what ICE is for. ICE is to make these people afraid. These people need to go back home. Again, this is my question. Is like, if their countries, if there's nothing bad about their countries, why are they coming to the United States? And two, if the United States is such a racist, terrible, neo-fascist place now, why would you want people coming in? If you're telling other races to come to a place that you think is a white supremacist, neo-Nazi, fascist organization country, why would you tell them to come here? That would be the worst thing for them to do, is to bring them into a white supremacist nation or fascist country, whatever. Why would you do that? Why would you come to a nation that you thought was like that? It doesn't make any sense. Make it make sense.
Mr. Trump's troops will enter the charged politics of this city. But for people on the south side, there is no military solution to the problems that have gripped generations. Tom Bateman, BBC News, Chicago.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And then, of course, like the media, PBS here, Republicans eager for Trump to expand the military on U.S. soil. Yes, but not the way that they're talking about. They make it sound like Republicans are wanting to send in the troops to go beat these people in these cities and just be mean. It's like, no, the National Guard can't. I mean, I say not can't. I said the National Guard is there as a deterrent. They're not there to do anything. They are there to support the police. Now again, that doesn't mean that they can't do anything. If they are attacked, they are allowed to defend themselves. That is exactly what the U.S. military is at every foreign location that we get deployed to. We are that person that says that we are the bouncer for other nations. We're their security or whatever. We are sitting there. We are their bouncer. We're sitting there. Basically, we're the guys like, hit me and see what happens. That is what the U.S. military is when we're deployed places like this. Even at like cities like this. It's like, do something, see what happens. That's what the Guard's there for. Same thing for people that are deployed in like other nations, like in Germany. When they go to Africa, wherever your deployment is, that's what you're there for. If somebody does something, by God, the force of the God Almighty and the American might is coming your way to lay the smackdown on you. That is what we're being used for at these places. Like, they're there just to make people feel safe. They're not there to do anything. They're not going to do anything. They can't make arrests or anything like that unless you give them a reason to. If you attack them, then they're going to do something. That's what's going on here. They're not allowed to do anything. They're just there to assist the police and make people feel safe. So that way it frees the police up to actually go do their job versus security. Because when you go to, think about that, when you go to a murder or a location that has a crime, you have to set up security and have to like have people blocking traffic and all this other stuff, whatever's going on. That frees up more officers to go do stuff like that and to follow up on crime and criminality versus, oh, we have to have a beat cop over here. We have to have a beat cop over there. The National Guardsmen being in these locations is a deterrent. So that's what's going on here. And we'll read just a little bit of this. Yeah, National Guard troops patrolling the streets of U.S. cities, weapons of war deployed against international gangs suspected of drug trafficking, military bases, and resources redirected to mass immigration enforcement operations. President Donald Trump is swiftly implementing his vision of the military as an all-powerful tool for his policy goals. It's ground that the president has hardly ever crossed outside times of war, and experts say it's remaking the role of the most powerful military in the world and its relationship with the American public. Yet Trump has dramatically stepped up the use of military force. Fellow Republicans in Congress, where authorization for such actions is supposed to originate, has done little but cheer him on. That giving the president significant leeway as he raises plans to send troops next to Chicago, Baltimore, and New Orleans. If there were one of those mayors, I'd be glad to help, said Senator Roger Wicker, Republican, Mississippi, the chair of the Senate Armed Service Committee, speaking from the Capitol building where the National Guard troops were patrolling the city. I think the big city Democrats are really making a mistake. I think they're being tone deaf. Lawmakers from Louisiana, a red state surrounded politically blue New Orleans, said that it was a great idea for the National Guard troops to go there. New Orleans, like most Democrat-run cities, has a high crime rate. So it would be helpful, House Speaker Mike Johnson, a Louisiana Republican, told the Associated Press. The Senator John Kennedy, Republican Louisiana, agreed. We need all the help we can get. I'm delighted to bring the National Guard. Republicans in recent years have found the political success in the issue of crime. The vast majority of Americans, 81%, see crime as a major problem in large cities, according to a recent poll from the AP, Center of Public Affairs Research. That includes nearly all Republicans, roughly 3/4 of independents, and 7 in 10 Democrats. However, statistically show all overall crime is down across the nation, with some cities reporting 30-year lows, which that's not true. As we've seen, they redid the crime statistics. They keep hiding the crime, or like I said, they're not releasing all the information. They do this regularly to where they just kind of gerrymander the data to make it look a little bit nicer. How Trump's use of the National Guard is unique. In the past, the National Guard troops on American soil was reserved for extraordinary circumstances such as natural disasters or when local officials became overwhelmed by civil unrest or disorder. That's basically what's going on in these cities. Rarely have a president use troops for law enforcement purposes. And here's the other point. Trump cannot deploy the National Guard into anywhere without the governor's permission. He has to get permission from the governor. That was the whole point of what happened during George W. Bush during Katrina. George Bush asked if he wanted him to send in the troops. The governor of that state refused. The governor of Louisiana refused to use the National Guard. When it was George W. Bush at that time, asked. He can't do that. That's him invading a state if he just activates the Guard or any other military unit and sends them in. He has to get permission from the governor. And I don't know what the deal was with that governor at the time. I don't know if it was a Democrat or whatever. I have to go back and look that up because I was just a kid when I think I was just out of high school or just getting into college at this point, and I didn't know much about what was going on. I didn't know anything about politics at that time because I was just a young, dumb kid. Notable examples include the 1894 Pullman strike in Chicago during the Civil Rights era, designed desegregation in the South, and 1992 deadly riots and police officers brutally beating the motorist Rodney King, where they acquitted on state charges. Yeah, but we even did like a whole talk about this, like deploying the National Guard for the Kent State massacre, and we find out that they'd been rioting for 2 days in the city. They had burned down the ROTC building, and they were being pretty much violent like the entire time. So this is what the National Guard is for. And Democrats don't want to give Trump any win, so that's why they refuse and say he's just bringing in the troops to be, his brown shirt, Nazi fascist, to implement his brown shirt Nazi fascism laws. That's all that is. But that's pretty much it for this. We're not going to keep reading this article. It's ridiculous, but we'll have this little thing right here from Tom Homan, and then we're just going to kind of wrap it up after this. But Tom Homan talks to reporters about Operation, what do they call it, Midway Blitz. It's kind of a fun name, so.
So I'll take that for action.
How does Operation Midway Blitz differ from the raids that you've been conducting in and around Chicago since February?
We got more resources in Chicago. Again, the president wants to make Chicago safe again. And nothing's changed. We're still prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats. It's just we're sending more resources to sanctuary cities. President Trump said from day one, we're going to prioritize sanctuary cities because that's where the problem is. We know they're releasing public safety threats back in the community every day. We're going to go where the biggest problems are. The biggest problems are sanctuary cities.
What kinds of new resources?
More boots on the ground.
To community members and leaders who are worried about profiling, what do you say? Are due process rights being violated?
No, look, ICE agents aren't racially profiled. The law says you got to establish reasonable suspicion to detain and question somebody. And I think the men and women, ICE and Border Patrol, are doing exactly that. And I think the Supreme Court disagreed with us in California case. There's the myriad of factors they take into consideration. They learn that in the academy. Every 6 months, ICE agents have a refresher training on Fourth Amendment that gives them the rules around detention, seizure, arrest, questioning, and so forth. They're very well trained. They bring a group of factors together until they establish reasonable suspicion to make an arrest. Like the big story was the jumping on back of van Home Depot, how they established reasonable suspicion. Were they there when they did surveillance? Were they there when license plate numbers were copied and taken down and try to build a case on who's hiring these people and where these people came from? Were they there when they run NCIC and III and intelligence data? Were they there when they screened social media data? The men and women at ICE do a good job, and they do it professionally. They do it with integrity. So I think the Supreme Court agreed with us yesterday. Things are being done the right way.
The president has
Yeah. Even Richard High said angry cops when he talks about these. That's what he kind of dislikes about what he calls internet sleuths and, just reporters like this, investigative journalists that don't have all the information during the case. Like, they'll come in and just make commentary, and in this case, making commentary about, like, oh, how do they know? Why would they just go to Home Depot? It's like, well, they'd been watching these people for weeks, maybe even months. They had all this information that knew who they were. Like, they didn't just go to Home Depot, just be like, oh, just grab every Mexican you see. Let's go, fellas. Like I said, that's not how they operate. That's not how any police or military operate. So stupid. But that's what the left thinks. The left will think that. They'll just go, they're just going to grab any type of Mexican or Hispanic person they see off the street. They're just bad people. Yeah. Now, here's some sort of raid that happened in Illinois during this Operation Midway. Not exactly sure what happened. There's not really a lot, just this really shaky camera footage and just shows them rolling up. So not exactly sure what happened or even who they were going after. But we'll get to some of the memes real quick. Where did that go? There we go. Yeah. And you want to know how bad it is in Chicago? Uh-oh. Screen flipping out on me. There we go. Here, developing. These young Chicago men drove to their local police station showing off their guns, and reports that the President Trump will be sending the National Guard to Chicago in similar fashion to D.C. So, yeah. Blatant. If they're doing that in front of the police station, that's pretty blatant, that they have no fear of any repercussions from the Chicago PD. So, yeah, on top of the car, flashing their guns, taking pictures. Probably shooting like a little music video or something like. Nothing happening. Insane. Absolutely insane. Then there's this right here. This guy just threatening the National Guard, saying, don't send the National Guard. We gangs here are all bad. So check this out.
Trump, do not send the National Guard to Chicago, gang. Do not, I repeat, do not do it. We are a different fucking breed out here, nigga. We are not Los Angeles. Nigga, we are not Washington, D.C. Nigga, this is Chicago, nigga. Them niggas go fight back. I'm telling you, them niggas go fight back, gang. Whatever, I don't give a fuck what you talking about. Them young niggas got switches, gang. They not going for that shit, bro. I know a bunch of y'all finna say, oh, it's the National Guard. They can't do anything about it. They must go in Chicago. Nigga, do y'all know that it's more bad people than good people, bro? There are over 100,000 gangs in Chicago by the city by itself, gang. Trump.
Okay, sorry, I should have said that, explicit language warning there. But getting back to this, there's more bad people than good people in Chicago. That means that we need to send in some type of force to get rid of these bad people. So basically what that guy is admitting is that Chicago is lost. There's more bad people than good people. That means that city needs to be destroyed. When evil has completely taken over a city, it doesn't deserve to be a city anymore. That's insane that guy would admit that. There's more bad people than good. And then threatening and saying that, oh, well, they'll take you out. I was like, these guys have switches. These guys are military. These are military members that are trained to do this. They are trained to go to war. Gangbangers are hit and run tactics. They're shoot, run away. That's gangbangers. Said the military doesn't run. We're going to come in with Humvees, armor, all of our automatic weapons. It's not going to be a fair fight for y'all. It's like the military has a 3-to-1 ratio where they're going to send in a massive amount. They're going to send in a massive force to clear you guys up. If you guys do shoot at National Guardsmen, it'll be bad for the gangs. It will not be bad for the Guard. Then this just goes to show you this guy here too. Flashes a gang sign. Chicago gangbanging thug whose life has no meaning or value flashes a Latin King sign and calls on gangs to take action as the National Guard deploys to Chicago. Chicago deserves what's coming. Says, never thought I'd say this, but Chicago gangs, it's time to really bang. Todos los Latinos, and I don't know how to say that, prohinche or whatever, which I had that translated. It says, all Latinos, protect yourselves. So, yeah. Yeah, that's just the Department of War video. And like I said, there's the SEAL. Now it used to be the Department of Defense. Now it's the Department of War. And then I love this. And this, Ed Krasenstein reposted this. Says, nothing to see here. Just the U.S. president threatening to use the Department of War against the people of Chicago. Notice how he keeps out criminals. They're not there to attack law-abiding citizens. They're there for the criminals. They're there for the criminal element. Not there to just start beating on random citizens. Or even Democratic politicians, for that matter, unless they give them a reason to. It says, but I love this. It's Donald Trump. I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago's about to find out why it's called the Department of War. Chicago clips now. I love it. I freaking love it, man. Trump is the meme in chief president, man. I absolutely love it. That is so good. That is so good. I love it. Look at a closer image of that. That is awesome. Well, all right. Well, that's pretty much all I've got for today. This is Chad with Owasso Live. This was The Morning Loop. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you too can stay in the loop. But that's pretty much all I've got for today. I'm going to play us out with a video talking about the history of the Department of War. And that's pretty much all I've got for today. I will catch you all in the next one. God bless you, everybody.
In 1789, America called things as they were. The military arm of the new republic was named the Department of War. Its mission, simple: win. Protect the nation by projecting strength. And for more than a century and a half, it did exactly that. From the War of 1812 to the Civil War, from the Spanish-American War to victory in World War I and World War II. But in 1947, politicians thought the word war sounded too harsh for a new era of global diplomacy. They split the old War Department into the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. And in 1949, under Harry Truman, Congress gave it a softer name, the Department of Defense. A rebrand, not a transformation. Because America didn't stop fighting. Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, call it defense all you want. The mission was still war. And that's the point. Defense may sound noble, but victory requires offense. No football team wins with defense alone. Power is projected forward, not by hiding behind euphemisms. Because the truth is, they only changed the name, not the reality. And perhaps that's why Donald Trump is now proposing we return to the original name, the name America carried with pride from 1789 to 1949, the Department of War. My friends, we are all anonymous, and we believe power speaks loudest when it is honest.